He had never been to this city, yet he recognized the street, the corner cafe, the scent of cinnamon in the air, and the girl he was certain he'd once already lost, though she didn't remember him. And he wasn't sure he had ever been who he thought he was. "You're not from around here." He arrived in the city by mistake, or so he believed. A delayed train, a missed connection, and suddenly there was an extra hour in the timetable no one had promised. He stepped outside simply to stretch his legs, clear his head, wake up his limbs after the long ride. But when he turned the corner, he stopped dead. A narrow bend in the road, a single street lamp with a whitewashed post, a faded advertisement on a brick wall, all of it as if from a dream. Not déjà vu, not cinema, but a memory with no anchor. He knew that just beyond the next bend there would be a cafe. Small, fogged-up windows glowing with warmth, cinnamon thick in the air, a wooden floor that creaked, a bell above the door. A chair by the window, its cushion permanently dented, and behind the counter a woman with chestnut hair, her hand trembling as she poured syrup. He tasted it before he even reached the door. Cinnamon spice and gentle heat, as though he'd been here already. His fingers searched his pocket for coins gathered on the train. One was sticky from a caramel wrapper. A fragment surfaced. Last time he'd left a 2-coin tip beside the cup, though he shouldn't remember that. He walked on slowly like someone attending the funeral of another man's memories. The cafe was exactly as foretold, even the crack in the glass. He entered. The bell chimed. She turned. She didn't recognize him. Of course not. No flicker, no hesitation, just a polite half-smile like any customer receives. "Good afternoon. What can I get you?" He stood there thinking one thing only. I've already lost her once. I just don't know when. He began writing it down when he was 10. A hard-covered notebook issued for art class soon ceased to be for lessons. At night, whispering under the desk lamp while his parents slept, he filled it. Sometimes only a line. I saw a windowless house. Inside stood a silent woman. Sometimes whole scenes, repeating like a shift worker's dream. I walk a long street, mud underfoot. A stone cuts my soul. I am a boy, yet not me. He titled the notebook simply, Before. At first he assumed it was fantasy, then dreams. But they returned, too vivid, too visceral. He woke with pain in his wrists, lungs burning as if he'd breathed out a final sentence that never existed. He once muttered something to his father, who merely sighed, "Everyone has nightmares. You'll outgrow them." He did not. Now 21 and studying cognitive science, he noted with irony that lectures on memory affected him worst, especially the refrain, "Memory is reconstruction. We do not store, we rebuild." Each lesson left him nauseous. His mother phoned on weekends, always asking, "Are you eating at all?" He was, sometimes. In the mornings he visited the corner bakery, the one that smelled of cinnamon. While waiting in line, he scribbled absent-mindedly on a napkin. One day he noticed the word, clear and foreign, Anaya. Startled, he crushed the napkin and tossed it away, bought a pastry, forgot his change. All day he felt someone tugging at an old thread inside him. He locked before in a drawer and carried a slimmer notebook, jotting fragments on trains and cafes. Faces, scents, voices, especially names no one around him bore yet, which resonated like long-healed scars. One returned more than the rest, Anaya. He didn't know who she was. Sometimes he imagined he had met her once, or perhaps would meet her yet. He showed no one the notebook. Even when the therapist asked, "Is there anything you conceal?" he only shrugged. He feared two things equally, that it was all diseased imagination, or that every word was true. He didn't recognize her at once. Hurrying past a bookstore on his way to the library, his glance snagged on the display window. Inside, a young woman sorted magazines, and in the way she tucked a lock behind her ear, there was something familiar, not of person, but of sensation. He kept walking, then doubled back 2 blocks without reason. He entered casually, pretended to browse a Balkan guidebook. She stood at the register, pale sweater, slender rings, attentive eyes with a distant glaze. Her gaze caught his for a second longer than courtesy allowed. He laid the first book he found on the counter. "Name?" she asked. "Sorry?" "For the reader card," she explained gently. "Leon," he said. She wrote it down, hesitated. "I have an odd name," she offered. "Since childhood, everyone spelled it wrong. Even I once did." She smiled wryly. "On a school form, I left out the second I by. The teacher thought I was feigning shyness." He said nothing. "Anaya," she finished softly, "with two A's at the end. Don't ask what it means. I don't know either." The world stepped back a pace. Anaya, the name from his notebooks, scrawled hundreds of times, sometimes in sleep, sometimes on lecture margins, on his own palm. He managed only, "It's beautiful." Her shoulders lifted in the smallest breath. "Do you have an unusual name yourself?" He wanted to answer, "I don't know. I think I did once, but I've forgotten it." Instead, he shook his head and left without the book. He began seeing them everywhere. Not Anaya. She vanished like a dream, leaving a too bright after-image. But faces, streets, sentences in a language that didn't exist. What once arrived as coincidence now rolled in waves, and he was drowning. He kept records, noting how not only scenes but feelings repeated. Dread before sleep, the taste of dust on his teeth, the certainty someone long known waited behind him. He tried the rational route. Blood tests, MRI, all normal. The therapist suggested a trigger diary. He laughed. "I've kept one since I was 10. Prescribed tranquilizers dulled him but blurred nothing. Memory merely receded, as if viewed through ice. Then the thing he feared occurred. Walking a crowded street, he spotted her near a newsstand. Same hair, same outline. He stepped closer. "Anaya!" She spun, frightened. "I'm sorry, who are you?" Not her at all. He retreated, mumbled apology, fled as though pursued by his shadow. That night he didn't open before. He lay listening to his heart beating like it belonged to another body. For the first time he wondered, what if it really is an illness and none of this ever happened? He didn't find her immediately. First there were stones, 5 black pebbles arranged along a bridge rail in a deliberate pattern, 2 together, 1 apart, then 2 pressed tight, too precise to be random, as if left for remembrance. Farther on, he saw a woman seated on the same bench where he'd once read about cryptomnesia. A closed book lay on her lap. Her fingers worried the edge of a scarf. He meant to pass, but she raised her eyes, neither surprised nor welcoming, rather as if she'd expected him. "Do you always fear forgetting faces?" she asked. Her words moved like an undercurrent, touching depth, not surface. He sat without question. "At first they seem like dreams," she continued. "Then you catch a scent, warmth in your palms, the sound that shouldn't exist, and it stops mattering whether it's real, it's yours." He had no reply. Inside felt like a cliff edge with no visible bottom. She stood, left a folded page on the bench. "Guard the names," she said. "Sometimes they remember us better than we do them." Then she walked away without looking back. He unfolded the sheet. It was his own handwriting, a line from before, penned years earlier. "I didn't know who I was, but someone did." He had no memory of showing it to anyone. He returned to the cafe, not from longing or hope, but because something waited there between then and now, between who he had been and who he had become. Anaya was behind the counter this time with a book in hand. He ordered tea and sat by the window. She looked up, smiled, not as a server, but as though she half remembered. "Haven't we met?" "Perhaps," he said. "In another life." A wry snort, tinged with irritation. "Are you one of those who believe in karma, reincarnation, cosmic coincidences?" He produced the notebook, laid it on the table. She squinted. "What's that? Are you a spy? Cultist? Merely a fantasist?" "It's everything I remembered before I knew who I'd become." She exhaled slowly. "I wake some mornings not knowing where I am," she confessed in a low voice. "The room seems mine, yet not. The things, strangers. I look at old photos and can't recognize myself. Not the face, the inside. He was silent. "You're ill, you know," she snapped. "Or I am, or both of us." He opened the notebook to the first page, her name written long ago in a child's scrawl. She froze, no fear, no tears, only inner quiet. "What is this?" "Maybe you were light once," he said. "Before, and now you're simply human." He smiled. "That's not worse." "So what? I'm supposed to wake up and admit it's all true?" "Number, you can forget, or return, as you choose." She closed the notebook carefully, fingers lingering on the cover as though on something warm, then left without another word. He sat while cinnamon seeped into his tea. Outside, the city hummed as always, but inside, everything was after. He no longer wrote in before. It was unnecessary now, not because the past had vanished, but because he'd stopped chasing it. He kept a new notebook, now, filling it with days and streets, small happenings, a mistaken coin, the smell after rain. He lived in a seaside town. No one knew his name. Sometimes he himself forgot it. At the post office, he once needed to sign a form. Pen poised, he realized no name surfaced, not the one in his passport, nor the childhood one, nor the secret third. Unperturbed, he wrote a single letter, L and a dot. The next day, an unsigned message arrived. "You could change everything. Why stay silent?" He stared at the screen, then wiped it away. That evening, he sat on a bench opposite a bus stop. The wind was brisk. People hurried, scarves fluttering, keys jingling. A girl in a red jacket stopped beside him, clutching a paper boat. She studied him with unnervingly adult focus. "Are you from somewhere else?" she asked. He smiled. "And you?" She nodded. "Your eyes are like those who've already been." He pulled a tiny paper bird from his pocket and offered it. She accepted it with solemn care, then ran to her parents without looking back. He remained watching evenings settle over a city that seemed unchanged. Yet between the lines of streets, in shop-front reflections, something shifted. He didn't know who had lived before him or who he might become. He simply lived, and when a face flashed in the bus window, not his, yet echoing, he thought, memory is no proof. It's a bridge, and each time you decide, cross it or stay,